In October 2016, a photo agency called me and said, can you go to northern Spain? Game of Thrones are filming there, not quite sure where they are. We know it's near Bilbao, and then go from there. So they paid for everything, hotels, everything like that. I got to Bilbao, realised it wasn't there. It was an hour's drive to a little town called Zumaia, or Itzuren Beach, which is kind of almost on the border of Spain. You know, it's between Santander and Bordeaux's not far on the French coast. Zumaia itself was a tiny little town. It was all shut off, security everywhere. Couldn't get anywhere near the beach, which was a geological masterpiece. It was just an amazing place. But anyway, couldn't get anywhere near it, so had to drive around the coast up into the hills to find a place that overlooked the beach. So once you got up into the hills, the only things up there were cows and goats and little fields. And there were actually some local photographer guys who I saw, and they decided that the mist wasn't going. This was in the morning, and they just walked back down the hill. I never saw them again. So being from England, I had to wait around. I didn't have anywhere else to go. I looked at a church that was covered in mist, and as it cleared up, I could see the cross. And then I kind of thought, well, right, okay, let's get the stuff out the back of the car. The mist was clearing slowly. So walked a little way into a paddock, which was a little gateway. And from the gateway, you could then enter a field. And from that field, not a couple of miles, I'd say, maybe a mile, 3/4 of a mile away, you'd see the beach. On a 600mm lens, it looked quite good. The first scene I couldn't quite make out because it was so misty. There were security people on the hills. They didn't see me. They were sitting everywhere, really, kind of looking inwards, not outwards. But the first scene was a boat arriving on the beach. Theon Greyjoy arrives on the beach it's meant to be Dragonstone, I think, where they're arriving. And as he arrives, he's confronted by Jon Snow. I shot it on, digitally shot it, and then I actually filmed some of it as well. So I did get some footage. There were guys in waterproofs, full red waterproofs, 2 or 3 cameras, and there were so many people that were in the background. I'm not quite sure what they all did, but an awful lot of people just standing around. So it's probably a good industry to get into. Probably even better to work for Netflix. But the scene is where Theon Greyjoy walks up the beach, and Jon Snow sort of grabs him. I'm not quite sure what they're saying, but obviously a very important part of the show. And then you see Davos Seaworth walking up, and the Dothraki towards Theon. Again, quite an important part of the show. I shot it, I filmed it, and then I did some stills, and the stills did make the UK papers. And this was just one example in the Mirror. So that was that. And then we had Daenerys on the beach with Tyrion. She got her feet wet, which she kind of laughed about. I didn't quite catch that, but yeah, then you had kind of scenes of all of them together. I think they were basically shot a lot of scenes in one day, so lots of arrivals, and then this scene is them leaving, Jon Snow leaving with Davos, and obviously Daenerys and Tyrion saying goodbye. Those that watch Game of Thrones would know the whole sequence of it. But they were doing this on and off all day. They were getting wet. You know, it can't have been enjoyable, even though they did enjoy it themselves off screen. There's pictures of Kit Harrington and Liam Cunningham having a cigarette. There's pictures of Kit and Emilia sort of looking at something on the phone. Anyway, so the last scene of the day they did was when they are preparing the beach for the arrival of Jon Snow when he meets the Tyrion and the Dothraki. I caught that as well. So here you have Jon Snow walking up the beach, surrounded by the Dothraki, with Davos, and they go to meet and shake the hand of Tyrion. This actually did quite well in the papers, but there were the Spanish guys had come back at this point, so there were a few of us here. But I could send directly, which I did. I don't think they had the ability to do that. I was kind of sending this stuff, or the stills for this stuff, immediately, and again it did make in quite a few of the papers. Again, this was the biggest show of the time. It was one of the biggest shows on Netflix, and it was an amazing place to visit. I mean, the actual beach itself is just a crazy sort of like geological amazement. This was the scene that I did on from a stills perspective, and this was from you know, half a mile away, which is quite impressive. That's the beach where they're filming Game of Thrones 7. It's about half a mile away, and it's quite a distance. That's me sitting in the field where I took the pictures from. I was in a comfortable position, had a monopod, and from there it looked miles away. It's maybe half a mile, 3/4 of a mile. On that 600mm lens, I could pick out members of the Game of Thrones cast and scenes, film stuff. It was an amazing lens. Anyway, talk to you soon.